Welcome to Module 3. In the last module, we learned how Saint Peter went to a cottage where a lady was making the cakes. Now, Pranav, please read.
She made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Therefore, she needed another and still a smaller one. But it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer. But she couldn't part with that.
Thank you, Pranav. So, what did the girl do? She made a very little cake and it was being baked in the earth. And when she looked at it, what did she think? Oh my god, this is very large. It should not, such a large cake should not be given away. So what did she do? She needed another cake and she made a smaller one, smaller than the previous one. But again she looked at it and she turned it over. She felt that this is the same size as the first one. So what did she do? Again she took a tiny scrap of dough and she rolled it very thin, very flat, and she baked it as thin as a wafer. And still she could not part with that wafer sized cake also. So see how selfish is the girl. Now Husna, please read the next 4 stanzas.
For she said, my cakes that seem too small, when I ate of them myself, I ate too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint. And surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food, by boring and boring and boring, all day in the hard, dry wood.
Thank you, Husna. The girl said to herself, see, when I am eating the cakes for myself, the cakes appear too small. But when I want to give the cake to someone else, it appears too large. So what did she do? Even the wafer-sized cake, she put it on the shelf. Now Saint Peter, he had come so hungry. Now he was very weak also. So he got angry, and such a woman like that a girl can easily make angry a saint who has done all the preaching and was feeling very hungry. So he said, now you are very selfish. So you are too selfish that you cannot dwell in the human form. You have no right to be in the human form. You have got food, you have got shelter, you have got fire to keep you warm. But you don't deserve any of these things. So now what will you do? You shall build as the birds do, and you will get only scanty food, not enough food, only scanty food. And how will you get that food? By boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood. So you have to bore and bore. You know what is meant by boring? Boring well. Have you heard of boring well? So you have to bore and in the dry wood to get food. Now Vaishak, will you please read the last 3 stanzas of the poem?
Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. But all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food.
Thank you, Vaishak. So as Saint Peter cursed the girl, she became a bird, a woodpecker, and she went through the chimney without being able to speak even a single word. So she flew out of the chimney as a woodpecker. She was changed to a bird. So when she was baking the cake, she had a scarlet cap on her head, a bright red cap on her head, and that was left the same. Have you seen a woodpecker? It has got a scarlet cap on its head. But all the rest of the clothes that were burnt black as a coal in the flame. So if you see the woodpecker, you can see the whole body is black in color, but it has got a scarlet cap. And in the countries, the school boys, if they pass through the woods or forest, they can meet the woodpecker. And what will the woodpecker be doing? They will be boring and boring in the wood for its food and shelter. So what does this lesson teach us? We should not be selfish. Whatever we have with us, we must be able to part with anyone who needs it.